As a Canadian taxpayer, you might be aware that medical expenses can take a significant toll on your budget, especially if you or a family member has a chronic illness or disability. The good news is that you are afforded certain tax deductions to help alleviate the burden of these expenses. This article will walk you through everything you need to know about medical expenses and tax deductions in Canada, ensuring that you take advantage of every benefit available to you. Medical expenses cover a wide range of services and items related to healthcare. Some examples include prescription medications, dental services, hearing aids, and fees paid to medical professionals such as doctors, dentists, and psychologists. In some cases, expenses for medical equipment, renovations to accommodate disabilities, or even travel expenses for medical care outside of your hometown may also qualify. It is important to be aware of what qualifies as a medical expense in order to maximize your tax deductions. Medical expenses can be claimed on your tax return by you, your spouse or common law partner, and your dependents, which include children, parents, and other relatives who rely on you for financial support. Be sure to gather documentation for any medical expenses incurred by you or your loved ones when preparing your tax return, as this will greatly aid in the process of claiming deductions. In order to claim medical expenses on your tax return, you must first calculate the total amount spent on eligible medical costs during the tax year. It is essential to keep detailed records and receipts to substantiate your claim. Once you have determined the total amount spent on medical expenses, enter this figure on line 33,099 or line 33199, if the expenses are for your eligible dependent, of your income tax return. Keep in mind that there is a threshold for claiming medical expenses, which is set at the lower of 3% of your net income or $2,397 for 2020. This means that you can only claim the portion of your medical expenses that exceed this threshold. For example, if your net income for 2020 is $50,000, 3% of that is $1,500, which would be the threshold in this case. If your total medical expenses for the year are $4,000, you would be able to claim $2,500, $4,000 and #8211, $1,500, as a deduction on your tax return. To make the most of your medical expense tax deduction, consider these helpful tips. Claim the expenses with the lowest income. Since the threshold for claiming medical expenses is based on your net income, it is often advantageous to claim the expenses on the tax return of the spouse or common law partner with the lower net income. Select the optimal 12-month period. You are permitted to claim medical expenses made during any 12-month period ending in the current tax year, as long as those expenses were not claimed the previous year. Use this flexibility to maximize your deduction by selecting a 12-month period that captures the highest amount of medical expenses. Don't overlook eligible medical expenses. Be sure to familiarize yourself with the list of eligible medical expenses published by the Canada Revenue Agency, CRA, and take the time to gather documentation for all of the qualifying costs you have incurred during the year. Make sure to include the cost of medical services, devices, and even travel expenses related to medical care as part of your claim. By following these guidelines and keeping careful records of your medical expenses, you can significantly reduce your tax burden and ease the financial strain of healthcare costs for you and your loved ones. Remember to review the CRA's guidelines and consult with a professional tax advisor if you have any questions or concerns about your specific situation and tax-saving opportunities.